This episode of the Out of Bounds podcast is sponsored by Fisher Skis, and you can visit them at www.fishersports.com. Hello. This is the Out of Bounds podcast. My name is Adam Jabber, and we have an excellent episode for you today. Isabelle Hanssen is on the show, and I can't thank her enough for coming on, being so candid with me, and I really enjoyed this one. She's a Dutch half-pipe skier that has some really interesting news to share. We talk about that. We talk about some social stuff, obviously, because I always end up talking about social because it's important for every athlete. It's important for us. And but we try not to spend too much time on it. We spend a lot of time talking about the issues with half-pipe skiing, funding in skiing, athletes, management, that whole bit. And then we kind of talk about fitness. We talk about the ski system. We talk about so much stuff. She's great. I was like actually kind of floored at how good she is at talking. And I think, as I mentioned in the episode, a commentary career is not a bad choice for her. That being said, let's get into some sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Fisher Skis. Fisher's been a sponsor of the show for a bajillion years and hopefully a bajillion more. They're wonderful, wonderful people, but that's not what you guys care about. That's what I care about. They make great skis. That's what you guys care about. They make great boots. They make everything really, really well. It's that high quality Austrian built product that you've always known from Fisher. It's just now they have some fun skis. They have like fun, playful, all mountain skis. Think about Pink Ski Gang and apply it to all of the new Ranger series, right? 102, 96, 90. There's 108. I lied. It's not a 106. It's a 108. There's a 116. The 116 looks good, by the way. I always forget how good it looks because it's fat, but like, man, that thing looks good and it skis good. So if you need a new POW ski for 2023, go get it. There is still a pink ski, by the way, in case you're curious. There is still, what is that, the 90, Ethan? No, it's just the Ranger. That's like the wood core, easy steering, like first time ski. Get the Ranger. It's available in pink. Go to www.fishersports.com. Fisher Skis also gets you there. And check out some of the new stuff they have coming out. There's also this wonderful new kids boot that I keep talking about because it's the best little kids boot that's ever existed. Shout out Christoph Lentz. Check that thing out when it drops in the fall. We'll have it in the gear guide that will be dropping soon. Well, not soon, in the fall. And yeah, that's it. Check out Fisher Skis. This episode of the Out of Bounds podcast is sponsored by Onyx Backcountry. If you're unfamiliar with what Onyx does, they're the ultimate offline GPS hiking ski map system, and online as well. But so many different features. But I've talked about that before, so we're going to talk about something a little more current right now. And that is the fact that they're partnering with Leave No Trace again this June. And they're going to donate $10 towards Leave No Trace's hotspot program. Support Leave No Trace. I mean, it's like there's companies out there that are doing good things and that are trying to preserve national parks or local crags, trails. Like that's what this money is going towards. And that's why Onyx has decided to back them and actually offer some financial support, which, as we know, is hard to come by sometimes these days. You can go to www.onyxbackcountry.com or onyxmaps.com, and I've also included a link in the show notes. But any subscription, any new subscription to Onyx will get you a $10 donation to Leave No Trace. So please put your money where your mouth is, do some good things for the environment, for public spaces, and support Onyx Backcountry and Leave No Trace this June. This episode of the Out of Bounds podcast is sponsored by Woodchuck, the original American hard cider. Woodchuck is a phenomenal sponsor of ours. I can't thank this crew enough for working with us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and not just because brunch boxes show up at our door all the time. They make really, really amazing product. And I got to say, like, if you're into ciders, this is perfect. But if you're into stuff that tastes like wine or, like, for example, Prosecco, Sangria, Rosé, all of those are amazing. The brunch boxes have my new favorite and my old favorite, which is the Bellini is my new favorite, which is like peach. It just means peach, but I don't know. I'm not that intelligent. And the mimosa flavor. The mimosa flavor is like number one for me. They have a whole bunch of stuff. Check out woodchuck.com and buy yourself some cider. Also worth mentioning, this contest is already over, but you should go to Woodchuck Stock. What is it called? I'm looking at it right now. Oh, Woodchuck Cider Stock. Woodchuck Stock. You should go to Woodchuck Stock. Go to Cider Stock. It is on August 20th. I'm sorry that this is painful to listen to for some of you, but August 20th, come hang out. I'll be going. Bleachers are playing. Let's go have a good time. Just come. Just get a ticket. Come hang out with us and the whole Woodchuck crew down in Middlebury. So thank you again to Woodchuck for being a sponsor of the show. Sorry, I maybe butchered that ad read, but sometimes it's better that way. People really get the gist and they really know that I love these people and they love me back. So, and now I guess we'll get into the episode with Isabelle Hanssen.
Hi, I'm Isabelle Hanssen. I'm a professional halfpipe skier from the Netherlands, and I have been competing on the World Cup circuit for a very long time. I also do a lot of stuff with social media. That's basically very short. That's who I am, what I do.
That's awesome. First of all, before we get into anything serious, how much of an idiot do you think I was when I was like asking you if you were in New Zealand in the moment where you're like, this guy doesn't even know where the fuck I am and he's asking me to come on the podcast?
I didn't really think twice about it, honestly. New Zealand is my favorite country, so you could have been right.
All right. Well, I like look at one photo, see a location, and I'm like, oh, this is where this person lives, and it's it's not always to my benefit, but it's all good. So can I ask you, before we kind of get into some of the deeper stuff, how did you start your career? Like, what made you want to get into halfpipe specifically? Because that's kind of a weird one to like choose for a career path and it's very specialized, right? Like it's very different than all the other aspects. So
I don't think that we ever really choose what we do. I think for me personally, I just followed what made me feel the happiest.
Okay.
I come from indoor skiing, so I didn't really know how to use my edges until I started skiing tight and learned it along the way. I was a rail kid coming from the indoor domes, and I actually it's really funny. I was signed up for a slopestyle contest in New Zealand.
Yep.
And the contest was canceled and we wouldn't get our money back, but we could enter the halfpipe contest instead. And we'd never been in a halfpipe before. So we were like, yeah, okay, sure, why not? We're not going to get our money back anyway. So we did the halfpipe contest and we did not leave the halfpipe at all. We were like halfway up the wall doing 360s and alley-oop 180s and like, but it was super fun. So after that, I kind of just started doing it more and more. And then I kind of clicked. Like I felt more like myself than I'd ever been or ever felt. So I knew at that point that that's what I wanted to do. And halfpipe is kind of, if you want to do halfpipe, you kind of have to do it full on. You can't, because it's such a limited amount of training time. You either do it or you can't make it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got into halfpipe.
Yeah, it's a weird aspect of skiing in the sense that there's a lot of people who are insanely talented skiers that go and they ski halfpipe and they do really, really well. But it's also so specialized that and I talked to Kyle Smain about this, where it's like, okay, the top 5 maybe make some real money, and then everybody else is like kind of grasping at straws to make money or making money elsewhere in skiing, right? Like whether it's through social media or whatever. So talk to me a little bit about that aspect of things. How has that gone? I mean, you're like, I'm looking at this right now. And it's 11-time Dutch champion, 4-time slopestyle, 4-time big air, 3-time half type, 14th in the world. Like, I mean, it's like, that's a lot of accolades. So you tell me, like, how has it been?
I mean, I think halfpipe is a lot different than the other aspects of skiing. And I think slopestyle is kind of going there as well, where every country has a national team. And the athletes that are performing at the top, they're on a national team. And on these teams, almost everything is funded. So sometimes the team members even get budgets. So they get paid and everything is paid for. I think that's where most of the athletes in the industry or in halfpipe skiing make their money, or at least can save money. Yeah. It's been the national country, like the national federations pay for it. I highly doubt any of the female halfpipe skiers make any real money besides maybe Cassie and Eileen.
Yeah.
It's just nobody really watches women's halfpipe skiing. except for maybe at the Olympics. It's just there's not a lot of money going into it because it just doesn't come back in the form of marketing because of TV time. It's just so limited. It's just not. It's such a small sport, such a small aspect of the sport, and it's dominated so much by the U.S. and Canada and China that it's just like Europe doesn't watch because we don't have any athletes in it.
Right. Yeah, that's it's a weird way. It's a weird thing to think about, like that only a certain, like you can be elite and still not make any money. But I kind of want to touch on the fact that there's not any airtime going to it and there's not that support. Like why? Like that's the thing that I never really understand is for women's halfpipe is exciting to watch. Like I actually enjoy watching it, like, but the coverage is just not there. Like it's not there consistently. The times are always not great. It's like in the morning half the time I feel like when it's in the US. Like it's just not ideal. So why do you think that is?
I mean, we even experience a contest. We are always feel like the lowest level of priority in these competitions. They run us usually first in the morning. They always move us around if it's better weather conditions for the other competitions. And I feel like it's just small. It's a small amount of athletes. It's a small sport. I think that's why there's not enough attention for it. And if we don't create the attention, then it's never going to grow.
Yeah.
But it's such an expensive sport that even for the kids to get into it, it's almost impossible unless you have crazy rich parents or you have like a talent development team from your federation. Yeah. It's basically impossible. So we're also keeping it small with the limited amount of like access to halfpipe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think here in New England specifically, it's really hard because our snowfall is terrible anyway. So to get a halfpipe built almost seems like you're wasting snow. Like I've heard that time and time again where like they're trying to build a halfpipe and everybody's like, why are you wasting all of this snowmaking that could be going elsewhere on the mountain? So you're seeing less and less ski areas even build pipes in the same way. Right.
Yeah, it's super expensive to build them, and then you need someone who can actually build them. And right. I think there's maybe 10 guys in the world that can build like a world-class halfpipe.
Yeah.
So we're just making it really hard for ourselves and for a sport to grow, I guess.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then: Do you feel like people like Cassie, like Eileen, that are at that top level and making money, do you feel like that helps the sport or hurts the sport because there's such a disparity between how much they make? And we kind of talked about this before and we don't need to use exact numbers or whatever, but we talked about the disparity between like somebody like Eileen, right? And like anybody else on a national team, right? It just, does that disparity help or hurt things? Because on one hand,
I think the thing is with Eileen is that the money isn't coming from the skiing industry.
Yeah.
And the problem is that the money should be coming from within the skiing industry, but they're not willing to invest. And Eileen's on a whole other level. And I don't think that's only related to her skiing lifestyle. It's everything that comes with it. And I think she is creating worldwide a lot of attention for halfpipe skiing. And I hope that they will have a very positive effect on the growth of the sport. And I think that with Cassie being on that level for that long, I think she's definitely pulling the sport in the right direction as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree. I guess it's just, it's just a weird thing. And I know a lot of Eileen's money and the majority of Eileen's money is coming from other avenues. And kind of on this topic, her agent's really good, like really, really good. And obviously her mom's involved and all that stuff. We kind of talked about it. Do you think there's value in having an agent? Do you have an agent? Is it worth having one? Is this something that's been considered? I don't know. I kind of go back and forth all the time, but I guess it depends on the person.
It depends. It also depends on how good you are yourself at handling things. I've had a manager for the last couple of years and I had a different one before, but there's still a lot of aspects that I do myself. And there's some things where you kind of just need that person in between to keep your personal relationship with the brands good. So you can kind of complain through your manager and it doesn't come back at you. So I think that definitely helps. I think it depends. It depends case to case, but I think having support in any form of way is always going to be a positive thing.
Yeah. So for you, is it worth it? Your manager hopefully is not listening, but is it worth having one for you personally? Because you're so talented at running your social that aspect of it, like you can sell that aspect of it, I imagine, just on its own, right? Like as opposed to doing competitions, right? So is it helpful in that respect?
Yeah, it has been helpful. Yeah. For me, it was just really nice to not carry the burden of certain situations all by myself, and having like somebody who's involved with me along the way to discuss certain things and just to not be on your own.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. I think people don't realize it. And my thing has kind of always been the younger athletes are who should actually be propped up by agents and managers and that kind of stuff early on, because then they can kind of learn the business from the jump, as opposed to like, I don't know, being 25, 27 and starting to get to like, you know, peak of your career and picking one up.
Right.
Like getting that head start's huge.
I agree, because like, you know, when you're 15, you're super talented, you're going to be happy if somebody gives you a pair of skis. Right. But once you just take the product, it's really hard to get the budget involved. So if you can straight away from the get-go be like, hey, but this gift is worth more than just product or just a pair of skis, then you can start a way more serious partnership straight from the beginning. But the kid will never ask for it. So I think in those type of cases with those super young, talented kids with potential, it would be really good to have a manager or someone that is kind of like selling them, because the kid's never going to want to sell themselves.
Yeah. And I think there's once one person takes, and actually Tom Yaps, Eileen's manager, said this on a post that I made the other day, where somebody was saying that, oh, like it's actually a good thing to have like to get free skis and start a relationship that way. And then Yaps was like, okay, yes, but they're never like, if athletes stop taking shitty deals, they're like, it'll all get better for everybody and everybody can get paid, right? Like, so if athletes stop taking gear deals, people will actually be able to get paid. But brands know that they can just give a free pair of skis to a kid and that's it, like wash their hands of it.
And the problem is, if they're not going to want to pay, we're still going to need clothing. We're still going to need skis. Right. We're going to need boots. We need everything. So like, okay, the brand doesn't want to pay me. None of the brands want to pay me. I still need to wear the stuff. Well, then it's better to just get the product for free, at least, so I don't have to buy it. Right. And represent a brand that's at least giving me the free stuff than representing a brand that's not giving you anything at all. So they're making it almost impossible for us to say no.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fucked. Like, that's horrible. Like, I don't know how to say it any other way. I'm like trying to think of a nicer way to say it, but it's so bad, because the gear is so, we talk about this part all the time. It's like the gear is so expensive. Competition is so expensive. Everything costs so much money that like even the skiing money, you're at a loss competing, right? Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like I bet you even somebody like Eileen, who's at the top, doesn't pay for her skiing and all the travel and all the stuff involved with skiing through just skiing, right? Like it's got to be insanely difficult, because these ski companies aren't shelling out that money. And there's an argument out there that's like, okay, ski companies actually don't have that much money to spend, but I feel like that's bullshit.
I mean, look at racing.
Yeah.
Those athletes get paid. It's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, but why would you pay somebody if you don't have to?
Yeah, it's a great point. I don't know why. I don't know.
Throughout the year, I make a pretty decent amount of money, but halfpipe skiing is so expensive at the end of the year, I'm either broke or I'm in debt. Like it's just those halfpipe camps, they will just make you broke. There's no being able to make the money yourself and spend it on skiing. It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Like I said, you need to have either rich parents or be on a national team. Otherwise, it's almost impossible to become a halfpipe skier on a higher level.
Yeah. This is probably a good time to kind of transition into a career decision that you're making. So why don't you tell people about that, why you're making that choice, and then we can kind of dive in a little deeper.
Yeah, I'm stepping back from competitive halfpipe skiing. Not from halfpipe skiing, just the competition side of it. Mainly just because this past season, the competition were just no fun. I've reached a point where I'm not willing to risk my body anymore in dangerous conditions. And every competition was so dangerous that we didn't want to start, and they made us start. Yeah. And we worked towards a certain level of skiing for so long. Like you work so hard to reach within your potential, to reach a run that you can do at the competition that you'd be stoked with, and you want to see how that scores. And because the conditions during these competitions have been so bad, we never actually get to perform at the level that we trained for. And then it's like, well, if we don't even get to show what we work for, then what are we even doing? And then you're risking your body at the same time. It just, for me personally, it wasn't worth it anymore. And because I have to finance everything by myself, it's like I'm working to pay for my work. But it was fine because I love pipe skiing and it was fun. But then I always said, if it was not fun anymore, then I'll quit. And I've reached that point where it's not worth it anymore.
That takes a lot to just be like, I'm actually not having fun anymore, and to just quit. Like, that takes a lot of discipline to actually follow through. I say shit all the time. Half the time I don't end up doing it. It's like, so like, look, we were trying to do this episode for 2 years. Like, it's crazy. So how did you just decide, like, you're actually just that kind of person that just decides and that's it, you're done? Or was it a difficult decision to actually make?
I think it was a process. I really wanted to try and qualify for at least one more Olympics, or a Olympics. And I know that I'm not doing another 4 years. And without the Olympic goal, it's really hard for me to come up with the full funding to do it at this level. And it's just becoming more and more expensive every year. I have to fight on so many levels so hard to make it happen. And then for me to realize that it wasn't fun anymore, it was like, wait, what am I doing? It makes no sense anymore. So it was kind of like a process of realizing all of these things and then coming up with, okay, I still want to ski pipe, but maybe competitions are just not it for me anymore.
Yeah. Have you thought about transitioning into, like, I feel like the typical thing is people transition into the backcountry and they start like doing that kind of, is that of interest to you at all?
I still love pipe skiing too much. I'm not like just doing straight airs all day on a nice sunny day. Like that fills my heart. That's all I need. So, I do want to do a little bit more powder, but I don't think I'm going to go full backcountry like a lot of the skiers do when they retire from competition.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't imagine, it sucks, and it's an extremely difficult situation to kind of go through and decision to make. And I can't even really imagine, but I guess, I don't know, there's got to be some sense of like, okay, this is done. I can move on to the next thing, like, and see what the next chapter holds, right? Like that's a really positive thing. And not a lot of people actually get that like closure and then go to the next thing. Like that's an excitement that not everybody feels.
Right. I mean, I would have loved to have ended it with doing an Olympics, or, a lot of people do that. They do an Olympics or a World Championships, and then they're like, okay, now it's like a nice way to go out.
Yeah.
But for me, that wasn't possible. So I kind of just had to wait till I was personally done. And there's no like big ending to it. It was just me deciding that that's not what I want anymore.
Yeah. I actually think that there's more value in that. I mean, that's just my perspective, but I think there's more value in being like, look, I'm happy with where I'm at. I'm going to leave it before I hate it, right? Because that's the thing that happens to a lot of people is they do it so much and they're just like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this anymore. And then you see them like, they turn into Seth Morrison where they disappear forever and never talk to anybody. Like that's, nobody wants to see that. Like that fucking curmudgeon. That guy is so, anyway.
Yeah, I think it's good that I still have such a big love relationship with the half pipe itself and with skiing it. It's just the competition became more about surviving than performing, and I'm too old for that now.
How old are you?
28.
You're not too old for that. Like I'm 27.
I don't know.
Don't make me feel old too. Like there's no reason. There's no reason for that.
You want to go ski in the half pipe at night when it's like 90 kilometers
I didn't want to do that, period. So it's a different thing. Like, but I don't think either of us is old. Although I end up saying this a lot that I'm old because I feel older every single day. But I don't know.
I feel that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I thought at 22, I was like, oh, I'm gonna feel this good forever. And now I'm like 5 years later, I feel like I wake up some days and I'm like, I am a carcass. I am a straight up pie. I'm a dead body, basically.
I see like kids crash in the pipe and I'm like, oh my God, they're dead. And they just bounce back up and they're fine. And I'm like, damn, if I crash like that, then it's going to take me like 2 weeks. Like I had to crash 3 months ago and my hip still hurts. Like I could not recover anymore. It's not the same.
Can I, on that note, can I ask you a question about Abe? Like, how has it been working with Abe at Ski System? Do you like doing it genuinely? Has it been helpful? Just talk to me. Are you still working with him?
Super helpful. I'm having a little bit of a break now, but that's also because I was moving and everything, and I had some issues with my knee during the season, so I kind of like had my focus on that. But I worked with him all summer and leading into the season, prior to this winter season, and it was a very unique way of training, and I learned so much from him that was way more like ski specific, because I knew how to be strong, I knew how to prevent injuries, but his way is like a whole nother level, and he never paid me or anything, so I'm only saying this because I really believe in what he's doing and what he's offering. And it's such a cheap product. And I'm trying to like convince everyone like, oh my God, you guys need this, because like, especially all the younger kids that are up and coming, they have no idea what they need to do in the gym to prepare themselves for skiing. Yeah. This is perfect. And it's so accessible, and I really believe in it. So I'm a big fan. Yeah.
Yeah. He does a really good job at creating programs. I like, on one end of things, though, I will say that fucking guy sometimes is like, oh, you'll never get injured again. And I'm like, no, you will get injured still. You're just not going to get injured over nothing. You're less likely to get injured over nothing. It's hilarious. Like every time I would complain about like my back being blown out or something just from a ski day, he'd be like, well, if you did more lunges and more of the ski system, if you followed the program better, you wouldn't be hurt. And I'm just like, oh my God. And maybe he's right. Who knows?
I mean, maybe he is. Like I had this problem with I could never do like I couldn't do lunges and split squats for like a super long time because my quad would just not have it in my right leg. And we did this whole preparation training, and then boom, I was able to do it again after like 3 years. And every other training just told me to just train around it.
No kidding. So, yeah, it was he. When I did my assessment with him, he actually like focused on the things that I was bad at, like in the assessment, because it highlights those things right away. Like it immediately, you're like, here's my weaknesses, like wall sits or whatever. Like I didn't realize how bad I was at them, or like I did not think that I was bad. Like I'm not a terrible athlete. Like I played regular stick and ball sports like my whole life, but like, and I thought I could do a wall sit. He's like, no, you're being a bitch. Like this isn't good at all. Like you need to work on it more. I don't think he said that exact, but yeah, I don't know.
He probably should have.
He probably should have. He probably just should have told me, and I would have actually probably done more if he told me that. So it's a little more motivating. I don't know.
I just think for like everyone that's on a national team and they have the full support and everything, keep doing that. But for everyone who doesn't have access to world-class trainers and they still need to prepare for the winter season, not just tourists, I'm meaning like up-and-coming athletes. Like if I would have had access to this like 10 years ago or 7 years ago or something, it probably could have made a huge impact on injury prevention than just trying to figure it out by myself and asking questions here and there. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. There is a difference between ski fitness and regular fitness, obviously.
Yeah.
But what is that? Because like, and I hope this isn't offensive, but like you're very fit, like you're a fit human being. I don't know why that would be offensive, but you're a fit human being. Does that translate all the time to skiing? And does it translate more to half pipe than other aspects of skiing?
That's a hard question. I think the biggest difference between ski specific training and normal training is that you're doing it mainly for the functionality of it and injury prevention, whereas normal fitness can also be a lot about the way that your body looks.
Yeah.
And I think what we did with Abe was like we had a program of like creating health in your body, like making everything healthy, and then building a strength program and then turning that strength into power, which translated most to what I was doing on snow. Like when we started in October, I got some issues with my knee, but other than that, I've never felt that fit and that like powerful than I had in any other year. And I've been training for a very long time. And it wasn't like the training sometimes even felt kind of mellow. Like they were very different. I was very used to doing very heavy trainings. Yeah. And these were shorter trainings, but differently put together. And it just changed a lot for me. And I definitely think that it being more ski specific, like he had all these things that literally he had me do one exercise with a landmine. And I was like, damn, my legs burn exactly how they burn in the half pipe. And I'd never been able to translate that to anything out in the gym before.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I feel like we've given Abe a full on plug here for free, which is true, but because it's really good. It is a good program. He's a super smart guy. I give him all the props.
Agreed.
I was very, very impressed with what he offered, even if I was terrible at following his program personally, because I don't have that level. This is why I'm not an athlete. Other than a complete lack of skill and talent, I am not committed. to the athletic side nearly enough, I don't think.
And he keeps saying that consistency is key. So.
Yeah, consistency is key. He's like, do it all the time. And I'm like, okay. Like, I promise I'll find time this week. Anyway, so what is your plan now? Like, how are you going to make money? Like, what's the, that's the real hard question is like, you're not competing. Sponsors, I assume some of them are going to stick with you. Some of them will be like, okay, we're supporting the competitive aspect, but I don't know. You've got like 100 bajillion followers on Instagram. Like you have, I don't know. You tell me what is the plan?
Well, for money wise, yeah, I will continue to work with certain brands and companies that I have been working with, and there's a few that weren't really invested in my social media exposure. They were just invested in like the journey to the Olympics kind of thing.
Yep.
So obviously that will end, and then others will continue. I actually also just recently started a job for social media management, which I've done throughout the years here and there whenever I had time and whenever somebody asked me to or it came up. So I'm doing that right now for a tech company, actually.
Shit.
Just on the side, just to kind of pay off my debts from the season. Doing that right now.
I shouldn't even laugh because that's not even funny. That's horrible. But like, still, like to pay off your debts. That sounds. But
it is funny though because it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't.
Well, I know, but it's your situation, and I'm laughing at it, so I kind of feel bad. But like, it is funny. It's nonsense, is what it is.
It's a joke. It's basically a joke, and that's why it's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, I interrupted you. You could continue. So what's the plan?
So that's what I'm doing right now, and I'm not really looking too far ahead. I have a few things that I'm exploring for next winter season. I'm torn kind of between 2-3 things that which direction I want to be heading into.
Yeah.
But I'm still exploring. I knew that all of them involve half-pipe skiing. I just don't really know yet in what form.
Yeah. Do you have a YouTube channel? Have you thought about like that aspect of things?
I have thought about YouTube, but YouTube is just fair. If I would want to do it, I want to do it well.
Yeah.
And doing YouTube well costs a lot of money.
Yeah,
and,
I'm learning that.
Yes. So I would probably focus more on like TikTok.
Yeah. TikTok is crazy. People are going to kill me because I keep talking about TikTok, but TikTok is so insane.
But it's so good though. It's like everything that Instagram isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, but your engagement's good. Like some people have horrible engagement and like we have pretty good engagement too, but sometimes I'm like, did I do something wrong? Like did I get canceled and I wasn't aware of it? Like I don't know what.
But that's Instagram though. Like it's a roller coaster. If I compare my engagement now to my engagement 2 years ago, it's frustrating and depressing.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, there's TikTok. Let me just throw this video out there. Oh, cool. Has 200,000 views. Great. That works.
It's crazy. And you're like, where did these people come from? Like, where did they come from? It's
I don't know. I think TikTok is just way more authentic in a way where the content rules. So you don't have to have followers. The content just speaks for itself. If the content's good, it will go somewhere. And with Instagram, it's like you have spent so much. It's basically a job trying to grow the page. Yeah. And then you post something and then only 10% of your followers get to see it, if that.
If it's
TikTok
good.
It's just like, right. But even if it's not, like, sometimes I post a picture like, yeah, this is going to be like, everyone's going to love this. And then like, it does way worse than this random post that I didn't really think about too much. Like it's just, and with TikTok, it's like, just throw a lot in there and stuff works.
Oh yeah, but I mean like 10% engagement now on Instagram is like killer. Like that's like really really good.
Versus and the bigger you get, the less the percentage. So you see people with millions of followers and they're not even getting 1% engagement.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. We were talking about somebody the other day, not a person, but a brand, and they've like 200,000 followers or something like that, and they're getting like 60 likes on a post. You know, and it's like, what is going on? Like, this is so bizarre. 60 people saw that? Like, there's no way. It's broken.
But Instagram is trying to become TikTok. I don't know if you already have the new feed, but the whole feed is going to be like video. And I don't have it yet, but I've seen it, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
And it's just not for photos. So they're trying to become a TikTok, but then a bad version of it and nobody wants it, and there's no place anymore for artists or photographers, or they're like literally ruining the whole platform.
It's on Twitter. Twitter's the shit right now. Like, I love Twitter. Like, I have so much fun on Twitter.
Every time I open Twitter, I like see a post from you every time.
It's because all I do is just talk shit. Like, and you could have a thought and just put it out into the world, or you can put quality content out too, which like sometimes I'll put nice photos up, but like it's mostly just me talking shit or like telling somebody to like, I don't know, screw off and go ride their bike. Like, that's been the thing. I don't know. It's just more fun that way. But TikTok, I want to kind of get back to this because I don't think people really understand. What is a creator fund? Do you understand this?
I don't really use this, and I think it's more of a thing that's more being used in America than it is here. But I do know that people make money off it. But I've also heard that if you enter the creator fund, your engagement just becomes lower. So it's, I don't know. I think you're better off just growing your TikTok and views and building a brand and then doing partnerships with brands and stuff.
And are you making money off TikTok yet?
No, but I also haven't tried yet. But then I have, obviously, like I have sponsors now that are getting shit tons of views on my TikTok.
Right.
In a way that it's like supporting the partnerships that I already have.
Yeah. Sell that shit. Sell it like 100%. That's that's
well, the really cool thing is on TikTok is that 99% of my views are Dutch, and a lot of them are from younger age. That's a whole audience that's a whole audience that I don't necessarily reach at that much on Instagram. So my Instagram audience combined with my TikTok audience is very valuable.
Yeah. That's it's part of the portfolio, I think, and that's what people have to get better at is like, all right, and athletes have to get better at this, right? It's like, here's my package. And I tell people this every once in a while too, especially when they ask about the media side of things. It's like when we go out and we sell to sponsors, we have a kit, right? First of all, you have to have a pitch deck or a media kit or whatever, right?
Right.
But in addition to that, like you have to have all of your stuff separated out. Like stop giving people like free posts for a pair of socks. Like it's just not. It doesn't make sense. Like people they don't realize what the value is of that, because I'll argue that our social is almost as valuable as this part of it, right? Like this probably sells more, like when we do ads in the beginning, but it's the additional like social media aspect of it that actually like gets eyes and ears on the brand and brand awareness more than here. Here is like people are listening, then they buy because, they know the show, they get a code, whatever, but it's totally different once you're adding that social component to your repertoire.
Yep. I think especially also as an athlete or a brand, I think it's very valuable. Like especially as a female halfpipe skier, if I wouldn't have had my social media, and I worked really hard for that, but if I wouldn't have had it, then I would have not been able to do what I did for the last 5 years. Like I would have had no way to fund any of it.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I'm an athlete and the fact that I have social media reach, that combination is what made it work. If I would have had just one of the components, it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
And it's different for certain athletes or celebrities or people who are real life famous. It's different because the followers kind of come by themselves. You do not have to do years and years of algorithm research to grow your following. And the engagement is often a lot better because they're fans, it's different than when you have to build your brand and turn your followers into fans. Because I've had some people who are real life famous, if I say that correctly, think that my social media was fake just because my engagement wasn't as good as theirs. And I'm like, yeah, but you cannot compare a celebrity or a real life person who has real fans to someone who is kind of an influencer athlete, if I say that correctly, because it's just different. It's different if you grow real life first and then online than if you go online first and that translates into real life.
Yeah.
Like it's these people in the Netherlands who are really famous. They can post a picture of the shittiest food or whatever, and they will get shit tons of likes. I cannot do that. I have to think about my content and all that. And that's the difference in these type of things. And that doesn't mean that anything is fake. It just means that it works differently.
Yeah.
The personal connection is different.
Yeah, they're a public figure, and that's the thing is like the real life aspect of it really shines through in that sense, right? Where people are like, like you see it with like, I don't know, Jason Momoa, right? Where it's like he could do anything, just like post a picture of his dumb head, and immediately it's like, a million likes. It's so.
I feel like Eileen at this point could post whatever, and people
Oh my
will love
God,
it.
it's crazy. But
You know?
she's also like, here's a Gucci ad, here's a Rolex ad, and I'm just like, what is going on? And also, I'm like so sad that she like won't come on the podcast yet, because like I asked last year before she was like crazy blew up, and they were like, not at this point, but like down the line, and now I'm like can't even get a response. I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
Fuck.
Like whatever, but it doesn't matter. I would like to talk to her, but I also feel like she's so big now that I wouldn't get any real answers. So it's like,
It would actually be a lot more interesting to interview some of the like underdogs who are actually really fucking good. Like for example, Rachel Carker. She won a freaking Olympic medal and nobody's talking about her because Eileen kind of overshadowed everybody, you know?
Yeah.
And I would actually love to learn more about her and her journey and her perspective. Then if I want to know anything about Eileen, I just Google her and there's already a lot of stuff out there. It'd be way more interesting to hear from athletes that are not talking that much.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of the reason I wanted to have you on, because like you see your social, you see what you do, and you actually like getting to hear somebody talk and seeing them talk is a totally different level of like people now knowing you, right? The only way, and the only thing I could find, I was like looking for stuff on you, like to research a little bit, and the only thing I found was that interview you did with Mark from Low Pressure a while ago, and I'm like, this is the only thing that I could find right now is Mark, like of all people, Mark Warner is the only one that I could find a fucking interview from, which is hilarious that it shows up at the top. I was like, okay, good for you, Mark. I
did quite a few of like written interviews.
I saw those,
I actually hate podcasts, so I've only done 2 of them.
What the fuck?
Low Pressure podcast, and then I did a Dutch one recently about like the whole Olympic thing.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm not a fan of podcasts.
Why? What did I do wrong?
But I think when they're more skiing focused, it's a lot more interesting and a lot more valuable than like I get a lot of podcast requests, like probably 2 a week or something.
What?
And it's just always quite random. And I'm always just like, I send them to my manager. I'm like, you figure out if there's any of them that are like worth it for me to do it.
Yeah.
So.
And he said mine was worth it? Or
I didn't send yours. I
okay.
just decided that on my own.
Okay, good. All right, I'm glad. That makes me feel a little better. I think that I'm on this, like that we're okay here. I didn't have to get screened before we did this. That's nice. Yeah, I'm interested to see what kind of happens next. I'm sure you are too. But like that's a huge career change. I'm still kind of like stuck on that aspect of it. It's like that's a big thing. So what, and I know you probably can't tell me yet because you're still deciding things, but like what's the...
I can't talk about it. There's kind of like a few things. It's kind of like I see halfpipe skiing as a whole.
Yep.
And I see everything that's wrong with it. And it's like, do I run away or do I try to fix it? That's kind of...
Are you going to do a roast?
Hmm?
Are you gonna do a roast? Invite everybody at halfpipe skiing and just roast the shit out of everybody that's in charge of like.
No. The people are good. It's just the way everything's run. It's like there's so much wrong with it, and it's like I know that with the knowledge and the experience that I gained, I can do a lot for the sport.
Yeah.
But do I want to?
Yeah.
It's like I've already fought a long fight to kind of experience what I experienced and the journey that I made. Do I want to keep fighting for the sport, or do I just want to go off and chill and be an influencer halfpipe skier?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you know the answer to that, but I don't know. Like it's a difficult question to ask. There's some level of moral high ground there, I think.
Yeah. There's one thing that I actually been thinking about for a couple of years, and that is to start an international halfpipe team. So we have a lot of like individual athletes like me, or athletes that are supported by their country, but the country just doesn't have a national team, or they're the only athletes, or there's only 2 and there's no structure. To start like an international halfpipe team where athletes can kind of buy their spot into the team and then everything's taken care of. So we provide coaching, physical therapy, traveling, everything, so that the athlete just has to think about skiing. Kind of exactly how Team Canada does it. Like, their athletes are very well supported. Trennan runs a really good team. I feel like he does really great organizing. Like, there's one thing to have budget, but then there's a second thing to know how to spend that budget.
Right.
And I see Team Canada and I'm like, damn, if that would exist for international athletes like me, I probably wouldn't have been able to afford it. But if I would have had the opportunity to join a team like that, I would have, because it's so stressful and it's so much work to do it all on your own. And it's expensive because you have to either hire private coaching or you have no coaching, or you always staying by yourself. You're always renting a car by yourself. Like, it's really expensive too. So I think by creating a team and offering the opportunity to individual athletes to join a team, you can create a team that could actually compete against countries like Canada, US, and China. Whereas now I feel like those individual athletes don't even get the chance or the opportunity to get to that level because everything's all over the place.
So if you could like snap your fingers and change one thing, would that be it? Like the structure and the systemic aspect of it? Or is there other things that you're like, okay, this would be like a perfect, easy fix that would make a huge difference?
I mean, just a couple of more weather days for each competition couldn't hurt. Like, that would be great. That would be a great start.
Yeah, then you'd still be competing.
Actually use the weather days.
Yeah, right. Oh, God.
Yeah. But I think especially that there are almost no European halfpipe skiers is crazy. Countries like Switzerland having no female halfpipe skiers on World Cup circuit, or Austria not having any. It's just that, like, how?
Yeah.
It's not like, just because there's no structure, these countries don't really know what they're doing. There's almost no good coaches. It's really hard because I set up this team, like I put it on paper, and I've been trying to look for a halfpipe coach that could like be the head coach for my team, and I would do assistant coaching and the organizing and planning and everything. But it's really hard to find a good, experienced halfpipe coach that doesn't have a family with, it's really hard to find somebody who's committed to be able to do that, who's not already doing it, because it's such a small sport.
Yeah.
So that would kind of be the next step in this idea, is finding a coach and then seeing how many athletes would be willing to go in on something like this.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how you said you weren't going to talk about things very much, and then we're talking in detail about one of these things. No. Don't be sorry. I'm happier. I got the answer that I wanted. I think
one of the other things that I'm really looking into as well is judging.
Oh, cool.
Because there are no halfpipe judges. Like, all of the World Cup judges that are there right now, no one of them skied halfpipe themselves. And there almost being no female judges, and like a small group of European judges. I think that could be something that's very interesting as well. I've always had a lot of contact with Jason Aarons, like we're really good friends. And he's basically been teaching me all this stuff for years already. So yeah. I feel like I already have a good basis of everything that I would need to know. So that's something I'm looking into as well.
That would be sick. And I think more athletes are going to start getting into this too, because like you look at Tom Wallish and how good he is and how insightful he is. And you're like, oh, that's because he did it forever. So like for the commentary aspect of it, there's that avenue now too, right? The judging aspect is one thing, but like there's now commentary that like is opening up more and more. And I think we started to see that first in like stick and ball sports, like basketball and stuff like that. And it works really, really well instead of these like talking heads that get up there like me and are just like, hey, here's what everybody does. And it seems like everything's going, well, I just wish they would do this better or this better, and as opposed to like actually knowing what it takes. Right. Like
for us watching X Games, it's really cool when there's the ladies qualifications to hear Jen Hudak speak. Yeah. Because she's been there, she knows it's a lot different than if it would just be another random person. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah. And some people can do it without that experience, but I think for the most part, it's like that. Yeah. Especially on the judging aspect of it. It's like, how do you even, why would that not be a thing? Like that doesn't even make any logistical sense to me at all.
I very often felt like the judging booth needed more females, and especially female athletes, because the way that women's halfpipe is judged, sometimes I can get really frustrated over it, and not just me, like I just watching everybody else, and it's just oftentimes it's not the way that it should be. Yeah. And also very focused on who makes finals, and then everybody else is just kind of feels like sometimes we're just thrown in there where for some athletes, 17th or 18th place could mean Olympics or no Olympics, and judges sometimes forget that. And I feel like that's one aspect that I also feel like I need to fix, or at least have some impact on. Or yeah.
And I think honestly, like, as much as judging would be a really cool avenue to see you approach, you're a really good talker. Like you're well spoken. I feel like your impact can be better used in like a commentary booth, right? Like where like you're talking about these things and how it affects people's career long term.
You're putting like another idea in my head.
I think it's great. I'm sorry, but I think like seriously, like I was like a little nervous coming into this because I wasn't sure how, like, I don't know how well spoken you'd be, but you're extremely well spoken. So
thank you.
So why not do that? Because you can just talk about the things that are problematic. You can talk like you have a voice, and now more than ever, X Games, the Olympics, any competition, they're looking for more credibility, right? They're looking for more eyes on it.
Right.
And I can tell you, I watched a lot of the events in the Olympics this year because Tom was announcing, like because Tom was on the mic, and I'm like watching him and talk, like, I don't know. And I already know that he's cool. He's like, I've had him on the show. He's a great guy. You listen to him talk on the mic and you're like, holy shit, like this guy actually knows what he's talking about. You could do the same thing. It's really nice. You could do the same thing.
I don't know, maybe.
All right. Well, anyway, that's, your other option is to do a fucking podcast, but you already hate that. So it's but
I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, I guess. We'll see. We'll see about that. I just think that there's a big opportunity to impact people post-career with your words, right? And I think you even see like Lorraine Huber do it, right? Where she talks about the struggles that she goes through, where she talks about she just talks about her career. And then when she's on hill at the Freeride World Tour, like when she's skiing down, kind of giving that color commentary, it's really insightful because you're talking about one of the best, right? And that's huge. It's super. I'm losing it here. Promise it's not COVID.
I think we're at a safe distance, so
yeah. How far are we? What's the time difference, by the way?
It's almost 8 p.m., so I think 6 hours.
Oh, okay. Great. I think the impact that you can make is really, really significant. And it's a lot more like everybody's always worried about like, oh, I don't want to be a talker, I want to be a doer. But people listen to people that talk, a lot. As much as I shit on the talking heads of the world, they listen to them, right? So it's
true. Yeah.
You got to lean into it's like social. It's like it's a devil and a curse, but it's also hugely important for everybody, right?
Agreed.
Talking is kind of the same way. So I don't know. Just thoughts. Just another idea in the bucket. I think we've hit a lot of the categories here that I kind of wanted to talk about. But speaking of social, where can people find you on the internet? Where can people find you on Instagram, TikTok, the whole deal, Twitter? Because you are on Twitter, even though you don't tweet that much. Right.
Everywhere is just my name. It's just Isabelle Hanssen.
Sick.
I think the username is the same everywhere. Website's the same.
Yeah.
Everything. If any like really good halfpipe coaches are listening, hit me up because I need one.
I hope so. I hope it works out. Like that sounds amazing. It just sounds difficult to do because we just spent half an hour talking about how difficult and how broken the system is. And now we're like, yeah, come in and fight an uphill battle. Like but
I do think that for the ones that are already doing it, this would make it a hell of a lot easier. And it would actually create the opportunity for these athletes to reach their full potential. Whereas now, so much is a struggle. Like they're probably spending the same amount of money now than they would on the team, but then everything's taken care of. And I think that's what you need as an athlete. If you look at any other sport, at any gold medal winner, the first thing they always say is, I couldn't have done it without my team, the people that support me. And our sport is so, except for the 3 countries, everyone else is kind of scattered. And if we could combine those strengths together, I think you could get really far.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And you're right. Like it's really those 3 countries in China, the US, and Canada that play, right? All the time. I mean, other than ski racing, you see everybody for some reason, like it's the complete opposite, where the U.S., other than a few people, being Michaela and like a couple others, and Paula, I guess, it's crazy to see the impact of ski racing in European countries versus freestyle and free ride. Like those things just seem to matter less. And I'm like always mind blown, because to me, ski racing is the most boring aspect of it. Right? Like it's cool. I'm really psyched. And I like, don't get me wrong, I am like a huge Michaela Schifrin fanboy. Like I am like, I think she's the best. I think she's an incredible ambassador for the sport as a whole, but I don't look at it like ski racing. I just look at it as like she is an ambassador for skiing, period. Right? So like that I think makes a huge difference. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, that's kind of why ski racing is important to me, but I also don't see why there should be so much money from the ski industry pumped into ski racing.
I think that, especially in Europe, I think the countries are lacking the knowledge, and the companies don't see the market that's available. And I think that goes hand in hand. Like countries need to invest in national teams and in the athletes that they have, or create the athletes, or help to export them to get to a level. And then that will create the market. But now, especially in halfpipe, because in slopestyle there's a lot more European athletes, but in halfpipe, it's so very few. I think there's maybe 5 girls that come from Europe. And that's crazy. And I think it's kind of starts there. It's like the countries that want to invest don't know how. There's just no knowledge. There's no experience. There's nobody taking any action except the athletes themselves. And they're just kind of figuring it out as they go along, because they have no clue either. They're just trying to ski. Yeah.
It's a weird world we live in. It's a weird industry to be in. And it sounds like we're both stuck in it for a while, even if you get out of it a little bit. It sounds like we're here to hang out for a bit. So, Isabelle, thank you for doing this. This has been great. You're great on a podcast, regardless of whether you hate them or not. You're very good at it. So I appreciate you taking the time. And obviously I'll send you everything when this is ready to go.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.